Well, here it is, June 1st, 2023. I tried to record something last night, but I don't know, the room was too dark, and then the picture wasn't, you know, showing up very well, and I tried to create artificial lighting to help, and it was just, Anyway, so I didn't go forward. I recorded something else instead, just a one-off piece, just a piece of fluff, really. But I wanted to record something, and then this morning, I thought about going out to check out the sunrise and see what it looked like, but I rarely get a chance to sleep undisturbed in relative quiet. So I decided to go ahead and just do that, you know. And I know every sunrise is just a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence, but I hope that there will be other ones. And not all sunrises are created equal anyway. And I've captured my share over the past few years, and I feel pretty good about it. Just having a sample, a selection of a few of the most interesting sunrises that I had ever seen. Because before I arrived here in this place, I'd never really taken the time to pay attention or notice. I had an awareness that the sun would come up, and but I never really took the time to appreciate it or something. I'm not sure or if I even used to think about it at all in those terms. I don't really know how I used to think, period. Which is kind of scary. It's like I don't really know who I used to be, or how I used to think, or how I used to feel, or interact with the world. So much has changed. Personality. I'm still extremely sensitive and emotional, and difficulties with interacting with the world and things like that. That has not changed, but I was thinking about the meeting last night, the anonymous meeting, and how I've come to be here, and how I've come to think the way I think. And yes, the people that I have encountered have, probably more to my knowledge than I realize, influenced me and helped me. But at the same time, without their knowing, inhibited and kind of zealously overprotected me, like micromanaging and trying to help me when I didn't need help, and trying to suggest that there were problems when there were no problems, and to the effect of, if you think you're getting well or you think you're getting better, well, that's when you're sickest of all. You need to stay sick, stay unwell, because otherwise you might think you are, and then somehow that'll equal thinking that you're cured, and you'll go back to your previous behavior which got you here in the first place. And maybe that's how it works for other people, for typical people, for normal people. And maybe that might be how it works for autistic people too. I'm not sure. Or maybe I'm just an individual, and I'm just I have my own story that is different. I'm not saying it's better, just that it's different. And it has provided me with enough insight into the matter that, if I ever returned to the way I was living before, it is just a death sentence. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's like, the only reason I got away with it, if you want to call it getting away with it, for as long as I did, the way that I did, it's because I was younger. This body was able to take it and deal with it, and it protested mightily. And, but consciousness overrided, and disregarded and ignored warning signs. And then just, because it is an addiction. There is no really debate or quarrel over that. Alcohol abuse. It's not for fun. It just develops and becomes a toxic addiction. Just as bad, if not worse, than some other ones. Just because of its ease of access and unrestricted availability. It's legal, and it does not break any social taboos or social mores. If anything, it is highly encouraged that the public masses drink on nearly every occasion to enjoy life, because you don't enjoy life unless you're drinking or something. That's how the marketing goes. Of course, everything is for sale, and greed is a founding principle of the human race. To acquire wealth and power and illusions and possessions, just whatever it is that people think will bring them happiness. But it doesn't bring them happiness. They find emptiness. And all they then think is that they need more of it. And more will bring happiness. And then it doesn't. So it's a failed promise of more. People find happiness, and they might accidentally find it along the way in their quest to acquire. But they'll find it in ways that they didn't expect. Or they won't find it at all and just be unhappy. And that will, in turn, lash out and manifest in different sorts of behaviors. So, but anyway, I really only can talk about one thing that I know about, and that's just myself and my own story. It's the only thing I know pretty well. And when I first got here, I literally did go to an anonymous meeting every day for years. And there were a couple days where I would be going to two. For a couple years, I went to two meetings on my days off. One up in, the city close by, and then one back here local. So I was going to 9 meetings a day, or a week. And because I thought that I should, or I thought that I needed to be social and to get to know people, and I wanted to be known, and I wanted to be seen, and I thought that's what I wanted. And I also was working under the impression that I needed to be seen by other people to have a continuity of recovery. That if I wasn't seen by people and had like an alibi almost, then other people could think that I'd snuck off or had disappeared and had relapsed or something. So if anybody didn't see me, then I could be like, oh, I was here, I went to there. And if they, for some reason, wanted to check, I had an alibi. It's like, as though I was being watched or paid attention to or something. I gave myself credit for being more important than what I actually am. or something. I'm not sure. But then the pandemic happened in 2020. It happened to everybody, everywhere. And how it happened to me was, and I kept up with it. Meetings shut down, and but there were some meetings that kept going privately without advertising, and I kept those going because there were a lot of people that did not like meetings over the phone and things like that. So there were a few of us. We knew what the risks were, and we obeyed certain guidelines that about social distancing and face masks and things like that. We did abide, but it was probably still risky to travel and gather in groups. But I don't know. The pandemic was, I think, more. It was different than how it was advertised to the public, because there was a lot of business being done by the pharmaceutical companies, and then there was a lot of political agendas and playing out at the same time. So it was hard to decipher what was fact or fiction. And I was even surprised that the World Health Organization and the Center for Disease Control were just getting so into it that I thought they would give fair and impartial opinions about the statistics, and they were also sensationalizing and dramatizing, I thought, a bit excessively, to encourage people to, because, and I just think that the, mass vaccinations, it was like, yeah, you can do that all you want. It's not going to, it might help a little bit, but it's not going to contain it 100%. And so it's like, I think that was the whole thing was, if only everybody got vaccinated, it would end the pandemic. No. uh, uh, Again, I don't have the best knowledge, but it's just my own personal opinion that nature is much more clever than that. And because it's basically just the common cold, the common flu, which is constantly changing, and we can vaccinate to our heart's content, but we just be, furthering along. Anyway, I don't really want to talk about that. But how I got to now and how I have, dropped off in my meeting attendance and my contribution to the world of recovery, because it got to be too much. I found I was having to put on airs and pretend and pretense of I didn't like who I was becoming. I don't know who I was becoming, but it didn't feel right, and it didn't feel like me, and I didn't like where I was going, and I didn't like a lot of the people that I was around, and I didn't like how they made me feel. Not that they can make me feel any particular way, but I didn't like how I was feeling. And so I've slowly distanced and separated and disassociated from a lot of different meetings I used to go to. And I never expected that I would stop going to a few. I just assumed that I would continue. And the one that I was most surprised about when I stopped going was a meeting down south of here in a place called Nineveh. And I don't know, I just felt I didn't belong. That's the easiest way for me to say it. I didn't feel that I belonged, and I never would. And then they wanted to put me in charge And it was not like, in service work. And they wanted to put me in charge as a way of um, keeping me, giving me a permanent uh, position. And I felt as though, well, if I took it or allowed myself to be given it, I would never be able to get away without permission. And it's like, I don't want that. And by then, because of the pandemic, I had changed my working shift. So I'm working overnight hours, and the meeting is in the evening. And so my transition between sleep and getting down there to perform, because that's what it felt like, um, and then getting back up here to sleep for another hour before waking up again and going to work. I don't know. I'd been doing that without saying for 6 months by then, and it's like, no, I just don't see how that's going to work. And then if I ever wanted somebody to cover for a night, I'd have to find them, and I'd have to ask them to do me a favor, and then they would feel as though they had done a favor, and I don't know. I didn't like the road. I didn't like the path, so I chose not to take it. And I guess I'd already been looking for an excuse not to go to that meeting any longer, and that was a good enough one. And actually, back around that time period, I recorded a video about it. I called it A Farewell to Nineveh. And I haven't been back. I still could. They would, welcome me. But I don't want to tease them by going back and then just disappearing again. It just doesn't work for my schedule. And not that my schedule is the end-all, be-all, but I left for a reason. And I might miss a few people there and might be curious about what's going on for them, but I cannot be there for them. Just the atmosphere is not right, and it's not productive, and it's not healthy for me. And no one else can tell me what is for me, because they just don't know. I am an autistic individual, and no one has permission to tell me what I think and tell me what I feel about my life. There might be similarities and crossover with a lot of other people's lives, but how it's been for me, and how I've gone through, how I went through my alcoholism and recovery from. It's like, it's different. I don't care what anybody says about everybody thinks they're different. No, mine is a little bit different. Not a lot of it, but a little bit. I do everything different. And I don't do what they say. And I don't follow the procedure, I'm not saying that it doesn't work. It works for them. It works for the few other people that decide to actually give it an honest try. But for the majority, it doesn't work. And of course, the program places all blame on the individual. Well, the individual is doing it wrong if it didn't work. It's not the program that doesn't work, it's the person. Wow. That is a pretty grandiose claim, that when 99% of the people fail at the program, it's the 99% that are the problem. Now, some of that is true, though, that the individual is responsible for themselves. They need to take an inventory of their life and how they got to where they are, take responsibility, be accountable, and then commit to doing better, trying better, living better, and not going back to previous behaviors. So the program actually doesn't require all that much. It requires an investment and a leap of faith, really. A leap of belief, a leap of trust, a leap of hope. A lot of leaps. So, I miss some of the meetings I used to go to. It was a very different time in that transition between before the pandemic and then the beginning of the pandemic and then towards the end. And for me, I haven't returned to a bunch of the meetings that I stopped going to. I've just, called it good. And because when I become involved in a person who is just getting started, it's like I cannot recreate for them the situation that I was in. They have to find it for themselves. I can't just give it to them. I had to use the resources that were available at the time. And they might have been worse, they might have been better than what's available right now. At least now, when people are just getting started, the pandemic is over. Meetings are up and running. It is up to them to go to them and meet people and talk to people and interact. I don't know what answers anyone else is looking for. I don't know what the questions are. I don't know what anyone needs to hear. And but the best place for anybody to have an excellent chance is to go to those meetings and meet people. That's what I did. And I found what I was looking for. And I also found an experience that eventually I just couldn't allow myself to be exposed to any longer. It was becoming too dangerous to my mental well-being. People wanting or placing too many burdens or expectations or I don't know what. And I was just feeling way too stressed, as though I was trying to fulfill other people's needs without attending to myself. And people always wanting more. And no matter how much I gave, it was about more. So the meetings I'm still going to. I am still fulfilling a service role for both of them. I am the go-to person and backup for the current secretary, because I've performed the role of secretary for years for each of these meetings, and that whenever anything happens to the current secretary, I'm the one that fills in, whether it's the secretary, disappearing or moving away or changing their own life, so they aren't able to do it any longer, or and then I step in and fill in the role, and it's like, but because I'm still here, I'm still close, it's easy for me, so then therefore I should do it. And people want the meetings to stay open, but then they're not so big about helping or facilitating that idea. I don't know. It's a whole complicated story. But somehow I've gotten to now. I'm closing in on 7 years, not too far from now. And it has been an very interesting period of time. But I just try to take things in perspective and not take them for granted. So I don't know if that has anything to do with what I wanted to say today. Mostly just wanted to record something because I hadn't in a little bit. And I wanted to get something recorded before I go out for a run, because after the run, who knows. And then the lighting in this room in the mornings is pretty good. So I know there's something I'm trying to remember that I wanted to talk about, but I can't think of what it is right now. But most likely no one watches this far anyway, so it doesn't really matter. No. Yeah. Whatever it was, I'm not thinking of it. And I have my notes, but they're across the room, and they're on charger. So I guess I should go and get out for my run before it is going to get hot today. It's going to get close to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. So, and it's just getting warmer by the minute out there. So I should go before it gets too much later. It's not even, I think, like 8:30 right now in the morning. So I'm going to try to get done by 10. So I should go do that.